begrüße Sie alle natürlich sehr, sehr herzlich in dieser historischen Stadt, in der vor 75 Jahren der Nürnberger Kodex manifestiert wurde. 10 Prinzipien hat er und sie haben für immer Gültigkeit. Damals, heute und auch morgen. Und wir sind hier, weil wir daran erinnern wollen, dass es diesen Kodex gibt, was er beinhaltet und dass er eine ständige Ermahnung auch für uns Ärzte, aber auch für uns als Patienten ist und sein sollte. Wir dürfen ihn nicht vergessen. Wir müssen ihn beherzigen. Wir müssen als Ärzte dafür sorgen, dass er seine Gültigkeit nicht verliert und dass er auch nicht eingeschränkt wird oder abgewandelt wird in seinen Prinzipien. Der Nürnberger Kodex ist eine historische Leitlinie, wenn man so will, um es mal in der Medizinersprache auszudrücken. Eine ethische Verpflichtung. Da gibt es aus meiner Sicht keine Diskussion darüber. Das steht fest und deswegen sind wir heute hier. Wir dürfen aber auch Fragen stellen. Fragen stellen ist doch immer erlaubt. Ich habe mal gelernt, man kann keine dummen Fragen stellen. Und das ist deswegen auch sehr wichtig, dass wir uns daran erinnern, dass wir fragen dürfen, dass wir auch kritisch sein dürfen und dass wir hinterfragen dürfen, inwieweit der Nürnberger Kodex heute in der ärztlichen Arbeit, in dem Leben der Patienten noch Gültigkeit hat. Wir dürfen danach fragen, wir müssen uns auch damit kritisch auseinandersetzen. Das ist unsere Pflicht, ganz einfach. Für die heutige Zeit gilt es, wachsam und mutig zu sein und immer wieder daran zu erinnern, der Nürnberger Kodex gilt damals und heute. Wir dürfen nicht nachlassen, von jedem Arzt einzufordern, dass er sich bedingungslos daran hält. Das ist unsere ethische und moralische Aufgabe. Vielleicht wisst ihr, dass wir ein wirklich international bestücktes Redner- und Rednerinnenprogramm für euch auf die Beine gestellt haben. Wir haben viele Wochen gearbeitet dafür, dass das jetzt alles so aussieht, wie es aussieht, dass die Technik stimmt, dass die Leute im Hintergrund auch einen Backstage-Bereich vorbereitet haben, dass ihr alle da sein könnt auf dieser schönen Wörderwiese hier in Nürnberg. Und ich möchte an dieser Stelle Danke sagen an mein Team, an meine Teams, muss man fast sagen, die mit mir zusammengearbeitet haben. Wir haben gemeinsam dieses Programm gemacht. Danke an euch alle. Und danke auch an euch, an die vielen Netzwerke, in denen ihr schon die Vorankündigung geteilt habt. Das ist super, das ist alles eine wunderbare Sache, dass wir da auch wirklich zusammenarbeiten. Dankeschön. Ich komme jetzt zu unserer ersten Rednerin. Sie ist unser Ehrengast. Und es ist mir eine ganz große Ehre, Sie ankündigen zu dürfen. Ich bin unendlich stolz darauf, dass sie zu uns gekommen ist und dass sie heute hier die erste und die zentral wichtigste Rede am Anfang unserer Veranstaltung halten wird. Sie selbst ist nicht nur weit gereist, sie hat eine historisch bedeutsame Vergangenheit. Sie wurde schon als Kind in ein Konzentrationslager deportiert. Sie selbst überlebte den Holocaust und engagiert sich seit vielen Jahren für Menschen, die bewusst oder auch ohne Wissen in medizinischen Experimenten eingebunden werden. Sie ist seit vielen Jahren eine Kämpferin für Menschenrechte und darüber hinaus die Gründerin der Allianz für die Rechte von Menschen in medizinischen Versuchen, der Alliance for Human Research Protection. Es ist eine Informationsquelle und zugleich auch eine Schutzorganisation im öffentlichen Interesse, deren Ziel es ist, die Mauern der Geheimhaltung in der biomedizinischen Forschung aufzubrechen und Verantwortlichkeit zu schaffen. Bitte begrüßen Sie mit mir ganz herzlich mit einem ganz tollen Applaus Vera Sharav.
I came to Nuremberg to provide historical context to the current global threat confronting our civilization. These past 2 years and a half have been especially stressful as painful memories were rekindled. In 1941, I was 3.5 years old. My family was forced from our home in Romania to Ukraine. We were herded into a concentration camp, essentially left to starve. But death was everywhere. Death was the cloud above us. My father died at the camp of typhus, an infectious disease that was rampant in all the concentration camps and ghettos for lack of any sanitary conditions. In 1944, as the final solution was being aggressively implemented, Romania dislodged from its alliance with Nazi Germany, and the government allowed several hundred orphan Jewish children to return to Romania if they had a relative there. Although I was not an orphan, my mother lied to save my life. I boarded a cattle car train, the very same train that continued to bring Jews to the death camps. 4 years elapsed before I was reunited with my mother. The Holocaust serves as an archetypal symbol of unmitigated evil. Moral norms and human values were systematically obliterated. The Nazi system destroyed social conscience. Millions of people were worked to death as slave laborers. Others were abused in experimental human guinea pigs. The Holocaust did not begin in the gas chambers of Auschwitz or Treblinka. The Holocaust was preceded by 9 years of incremental restrictions and on personal freedom and the suspension of legal rights, civil rights, and essentially human rights. The stage was set by fear-mongering and hate-mongering propaganda. A series of humiliating, discriminatory government edicts demonized Jews as spreaders of disease. We were compared to lice. real viral disease that infected Nazi Germany was eugenics. Eugenics is the elitist ideology at the root of all genocides. Eugenics is cloaked in the mantle of pseudoscience. It was embraced by the academic, the medical establishment, as well as the judiciary, both in Germany and the United States. Eugenicists justify social and economic inequality. They legitimize discrimination, apartheid, sterilization, euthanasia, and genocide. The Nazis called it ethnic cleansing to protect the gene pool. Medicine was perverted from its healing mission and was weaponized. First, it was to control reproduction through forced sterilization. And then it was to eliminate those deemed to be subhuman, Untermenschen. The first victims of medical murder were 1,000 German infants and toddlers under the age of 3. The murderous operation was expanded to an estimated 10,000 children, German children, under the age of 17. The next victims were the mentally ill, followed by the elderly in nursing homes. All of these human beings were condemned as worthless eaters. Under Operation T4, designated hospitals were turned into killing centers, where various extermination methods were tested, including Zyklon B, the gas that was used in the gas chambers. The objective of the final solution was the annihilation of the entire European Jewish population, which at the time was 11 million. The Nazis enacted discriminatory laws. They utilized modern technology, low-cost industrial methods, an efficient transportation system, and a highly trained bureaucracy that coordinated the industrial genocidal process. The objective was high speed, maximum efficiency, and low cost. The human casualties of this unprecedented genocide were 6 million Jews and 9 million other people whom the Nazis dehumanized as Untermenschen. The purpose of Holocaust memorials is to warn and inform future generations about how an enlightened, civilized society can be transformed into a genocidal universe ruled by absolute moral depravity. If we are to avert another Holocaust, we must identify ominous current parallels before they poison the fabric of society. Since the Nazi era, the study of history and most of the humanities, including philosophy, religion, and ethics, have been overshadowed by an emphasis on utilitarian science and technology. As a result, few people recognized foreboding similarities between current policies and those under the Nazi regime. By declaring a state of emergency in 1933 and 2020, constitutionally protected personal freedom, legal rights, and civil rights were swept aside. Repressive, discriminatory decrees followed. In 1933, the primary target of discrimination were Jews. Today, the target is people who refuse to be injected with experimental, genetically engineered so-called vaccines. Then and now, government dictates were crafted to eliminate segments of the population. In 2020, government dictates forbade hospitals from treating the elderly in nursing homes. The result was mass murder. Government decrees today continue to forbid doctors to prescribe life-saving, fully approved FDA medicines. They must follow government-dictated protocols, and those continue to kill. The media is silent as it was then. The media broadcast a single government-dictated narrative, just as it had under the Nazis. State censorship silences opposing views. In Nazi Germany, few individuals objected. Those that did were sent to concentration camps. Today, doctors and scientists who challenge the approved narrative are maligned and their reputations are trashed. They risk losing their license to practice, as well as having their homes and workplaces raided by SWAT teams. The moral significance of the Nuremberg Code cannot be overstated. The Nuremberg Code is the most authoritative, internationally recognized document in the history of medical ethics. This landmark document was formulated in response to the evidence of medical atrocities committed by Nazi physicians and scientists. The code sets forth moral boundaries of research involving human beings. The Nuremberg Code rejects the ideology of eugenics and unquestionably asserts the primacy and dignity of the individual human being. The primacy of the individual as opposed to the greater good of the state or society. I always have trouble, thank you. I always have trouble with technology, so please. It went a little bit too big. Okay. Now, let's see. Sorry. The American jurists who formulated the Nuremberg Code incorporated the official 1931 German guidelines for human experimentation. They were authored by Dr. Julius Moses. Now, the guidelines remained legally in force until 1945, but of course the Nazis completely disregarded them, and they deported Dr. Moses to Theresienstadt, where he died. The Nuremberg Code defined foundational, universal, moral, and legal standards affirming the fundamental human rights. The human rights apply to every human being, every race, creed, and color. It makes no difference. We are one human family. Equally important, the Nuremberg Code holds doctors and research investigators personally responsible to ensure the human subject's safety and to ensure that the person freely gave his voluntary, fully informed consent. The standards of the Nuremberg Code are incorporated into the International Criminal Code. They are legally applicable today, in peacetime and during war. The objective of the Nuremberg Code is to ensure that medicine never again deviates from its ethical precautionary principle. First, do no harm. The Nuremberg Code has served as a blueprint for subsequent national and international codes of human rights to ensure that the rights and dignity of the humans are upheld and to ensure that medical doctors never again engage in morally abhorrent experiments. Like the Ten Commandments, not a word of the Nuremberg Code may be changed. The first of the 10 ethical principles lays down the foremost ethical requirement, which is spelled out in great detail, and I'll read it. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, constraint, or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable him to make an understanding and enlightened decision. This requires that before the acceptance of an affirmative decision, I got stuck again. Sorry. Okay. Okay. The subject should be informed of the nature, duration, and purpose of the experiment, the method, and the means by which it is to be conducted. All inconveniences and hazards reasonably to be expected, and the effects upon his health or person which may possibly come from his participation in the experiment. Were any of you told about all this when you were offered the injections, the experimental injections? I doubt it. Now, the duty and responsibility for ascertaining the quality of the consent rests upon each individual who initiates, directs, engages in the experiment. It is their personal responsibility, which may not be delegated to another with impunity. The genocidal culture that permeated the Nazi regime did not end in 1945. It metastasized in the United States. At the end of the war, U.S. government agents helped 1,600 high-ranking Nazi scientists, doctors, and engineers to evade justice at Nuremberg. These Nazi technocrats facilitated the murderous Nazi operations. They were Hitler's partners in crimes against humanity. They were secretly smuggled into the United States under Operation Paperclip. And this was done in violation of an explicit order by President Harry Truman. These Nazi criminals were placed in high positions at major American scientific centers as well as medical centers, and they continued their work. What's more, these Nazi technocrats trained a generation of American scientists, doctors, and engineers. This is how Nazi methods and the immoral disregard for human values were entrenched in America. In 1961, in his farewell address to the nation, President Dwight D. Eisenhower warned against the increasing domination of the military-industrial complex, whose total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, he said, is felt everywhere. Eisenhower warned, we must be alert to the danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific technological elite. This is who is behind the COVID pandemic. In 1979, a report to the President of the United States by the U.S. Commission on the Holocaust, chaired by Auschwitz survivor Elie Wiesel, warned the inclination to duplicate the Nazi option and once again exterminate millions of people remains a hideous threat. Those who declare that Holocaust analogies are off limits are betraying the victims of the Holocaust by denying the relevance of the Holocaust. The Nuremberg Code has served as the foundation for ethical clinical research since its publication 75 years ago. The COVID pandemic is being exploited as an opportunity to overturn the moral and legal parameters laid down by the Nuremberg Code. The Nuremberg Code is our defense against abusive experimentation. Humanity is currently under siege by the global heirs to the Nazis, a posse of ruthless, interconnected global billionaires has gained control over national and international policy-setting institutions. They have embarked on implementing a diabolical agenda, which includes the overthrow of democracy and Western civilization, to depopulate the global population, to eliminate nation states and establish one world government, to eliminate cash and establish one digital currency, to inject digital IDs and artificial intelligence capabilities into every human being. If these objectives become a reality, we will be digitally surveyed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In May 2022, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Klaus Schwab, the architect of the dystopian Great Reset, declared, and I quote him, "Let's be clear, the future is not just happening. The future is built by us, a powerful community here in this room. We have the means to impose the state of the world." The ultimate goal of these megalomaniacs is to gain total control of the natural resources, the financial resources, and to replace humans with transhuman robots. Transhumanism is a biotech-enhanced caste system, the new eugenics. Klaus Schwab's lead advisor is Yuval Noah Harari, an Oxford University-trained Israeli. Harari is a proponent of the new eugenics and transhumanism. Harari refers to humans as hackable animals. He declared, "We have the technology to hack humans on a massive scale." Transhumanists despise the concept of God. Transhumanists despise human values and deny the existence of a human soul. Harari declares that there are too many useless people. Remember, the Nazi term was worthless eaters. This is the new eugenics. It is embraced by the most powerful global billionaire technocrats who gather in Davos, big tech, big pharma, the financial oligarchs, academics, government leaders, and the military-industrial complex. These megalomaniacs have paved the road to another Holocaust. This time, the threat of genocide is global in scale. This time, instead of Zyklon B gas, the weapons of mass destruction are genetically engineered injectable bioweapons masquerading as vaccines. This time, there will be no armed forces to rescue survivors. Be aware of that. No rescuers. Unless all of us resist, never again is now.
Das war die Holocaust-Überlebende Vera Sharav mit einer sehr interessanten Rede. Ob die Impfstoffe jetzt wirklich Biowaffen sind, das sei mal dahingestellt. Ob sie gesund sind, das sei auch mal dahingestellt. Ob sie wirksam sind, ohnehin. Interessant. Ich finde, der interessanteste Aspekt an ihrer Rede war die aus ihrer Sicht eindeutigen Parallelen zur Nazi-Zeit. Also das, was wir gerade erleben, hat laut Sharav extreme Ähnlichkeit mit dem, was vor dem Holocaust geschah. Und sie gehört ja nun mal aufgrund ihrer Historie zu denen, denen man deswegen jetzt nicht vorwerfen kann. Sie sei ein Nazi.
Eine sehr mutige Rede. Dankeschön. Danke, Vera Sharav, für diese klaren Worte, für die Kraft. Danke für Ihren Besuch bei uns. Bravo, genau. ergreifen. Never ending.